Hi, this is Jarrett Lyons, project manager of the LGBTQ New Americans Oral History Project. Today is June 16th, 2019. We're filming at the Brooklyn Community Pride Center in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. And what is your name?
Elvira.
My name is Elvira.
My name is Elvira.
And where did you grow up?
Moscow, Russia.
And what was it like growing up there?
I can't say a lot about that. It was like common childhood. The only interesting thing was that I mostly didn't have a lot of friends, so I was mostly alone, like reading. First time, I suppose, when I was like 7 or 8 years old, I liked a girl from my class, but I was afraid of it, so I tried to forget about that and just live a normal life, but I didn't hang out with boys anyway. So after that, I tried to be like others for a long time, and secondly, I realized that I was different when I was like 20 years old, and it was a problem to find a girl to hang out in my company, I'd say. And finally, I had my first girlfriend, I suppose, when I was 26. Yes, I think 26.
And you mentioned that when you had this crush when you were 7, that you were afraid. Why were you afraid?
Because it was really strange. Emotions I never faced with. And also it was a girl. I understood that it's not normal. My childhood was in another condition than today. We didn't have any materials, any books, any lessons about sex and gender. We didn't have internet. It's hard to believe, but we didn't have mobile phones. We didn't have computers even. We didn't have internet. We didn't have Google. We didn't have a mobile phone, Alexa, and so on. So no way to realize who you are easily. Certainly there were some companies, there were some places, but when you are just a child, no way to know about that. And even when you grow up, sometimes you just don't know about special companies because they were all closed, very closed. So and many years had passed before I knew that there were places where I could hang out with girls, places where gay people met each other, and so on. And we didn't have like Grindr and other apps. It was a long process of knowing myself, of understanding myself. It took a lot of years, honestly. And finally, I found a company of girls, and I found some understanding there. So it just happened. I met a girl, we liked each other, we still are friends. We are best friends, actually. It didn't last long, but it was a nice experience, and it like changed my world. And after that, I had girlfriends, and then I met my present wife.
You met that first girlfriend in Russia?
Yeah.
Okay. So what was it like when you were dating in Russia and in
Well, I began to date girls when
You could say dating in Russia.
It's hard to begin from dating in Russia because my thought is different. Yes. I want to say that I began to date girls when the law against gay propaganda wasn't on site. So dating in Russia for gay people that time was different, and it was easier. We were not afraid of authorities or of people. Certainly bad things happened anyway, but it wasn't so often, and we just hang out. We were almost opened, and it felt like like safety. I suppose I experienced some bad things from my previous boyfriend, but I experienced some homophobic things certainly too, but it wasn't like a wave, it wasn't like something huge. It felt like something personal, something you can face and you can fight with. But after a law against gay propaganda came to Russia and public opinion began to change, and things began worse and worse. And last years, when we lived in Russia, they were really hard because we felt aggression from outside, not only personal aggression to us from like people we know, but from the society at all. And we couldn't be open as we would like to be.
So you met your wife in Russia?
Yeah.
And you got married in Russia?
It's impossible to get married in Russia when you are a same-sex couple because law is against that. So we went to Denmark and we got married. It was in 2014.
And then you went back to Russia?
Yeah, because the time we were not going to leave. We hoped that things might be better.
And when things changed, when the law was passed against LGBT propaganda, how did that show itself?
The law passed in 2011, and for the first time it seems that nothing had changed. So it was a very slow process, almost invisible, and certainly it was coordinated with some issues in other areas of life, because for now it's tyranny in Russia. So it just became worse and worse, and people were beaten, were stalked. They had to leave their jobs. My wife had to leave her job as a teacher, for example, because there were many cases when teachers were stalked and blackmailed because of their orientation, especially in our city, St. Petersburg. And the funny thing is that we came from Moscow to St. Petersburg because we thought St. Petersburg was the most progressive city, the most tolerant. And after we came there, the law against gay propaganda was passed in St. Petersburg. And Mr. Milonov appeared there. So it was obvious that no place to run, because Moscow was always more homophobic than Petersburg.
So you mentioned that your wife was a teacher and had lost her job because of it?
She left because there were a lot of homophobic issues and talks, and if she stayed, she had to hide her identity very carefully, and it was hard. It's hard to explain to persons who didn't live in Russia or in homophobic countries that we experience a lot of pressure. We live with it day by day, year by year, and we almost don't feel it, but it influences on our lives. So only when we left Russia, we understood how big that pressure was.
Can you tell me about some ways in which the pressure affected your day-to-day life?
You are like in the everyday depression, the light depression. You feel that you are worse than others. You have to hide yourself. You are like, you don't exist. Your partner don't exist. You are never offered to come with your wife or, I don't know, husband to the holiday, to the family gathering, to the official place. And the first thing that when we were suggested to go as a couple to the official event was event in the American Embassy in St. Petersburg. And it was great to get the invitation as a couple. It was the first time in our lives.
Could you talk a little bit about that event and why you were invited?
When we lived in St. Petersburg, we were a part of coming out group. It's the activist group of LGBT people who helps others and so on. And so once they had the event in the American Embassy, and there we got acquainted with the wife of the consul, and she was a great woman, and we got in touch, and after that we communicated like through emails, and she sent me the invitation. And it was great because she certainly was a straight woman, but she considered us as a couple, and for her it was obvious and very simple. I don't think that she even knew how important it was for us. For sure it was like, for us it was huge.
And what was that moment like when you realized you had to leave? What influenced that moment?
I think that we, summer of 2016, we knew that we have to leave. We faced with different issues for that time. There were issues in our country, I mean the whole discrimination level, issues with our friends. For example, one of the people who worked with us in coming out group was humiliated and almost beaten in the center of St. Petersburg. It was issues when rainbow flags were restricted and rainbow columns were beaten and were taken to the police stations and so on. Also, we faced with personal issues because we were like stuck with a group of people who lived nearby, and they shot at our windows. I mean, not the actual guns, you know, pneumatic guns, but it was enough. And one day they even shot my wife in the leg. And for the first time we even didn't understand, because we thought that maybe it's a stone from the car. And then we realized it was a bullet. And one day our window was broken and we found a bullet between the glass. How to say, our windows had double glasses, one glass and second glass, and the bullet was there. We went to the police, and they told us it was a stone, but there was a metallic bullet right behind their eyes. So they didn't took our claim. Well, and it went on, and those people who shot at us, I'm not sure about my English, was shouting maybe. They used to come to our doors during the night and demanding to open. And when we shared it with our friends, they told us, you should be flattered. Men want to communicate with you. It's so nice. I would like to have the same issue. Nobody wants me like that. So they came with like flowers and asked to open a door. It was not nice.
So what were some of your concerns when coming to the U.S.?
My concerns were, as I suppose, the same as every immigrant has, because it's a new place. It's like the empty house you have to fill with some ideas, dreams, thoughts, some communication. You have no friends, no relatives, you have no base, no roots there. It felt like being totally alone.
What was the most surprising thing for you when you arrived here?
mm, people were smiling, you know, and they were very polite, and they didn't really care about orientation or things like that. They were just not a thing you have to fight for, and not a thing you have to think for every day and every hour. Me, my partner, and some of our friends were visiting a nightclub, Therapy, New York. For now, it's closed. So we were leaving that club, and it was like 11 or 10 p.m. like that evening. And we were leaving. I realized that I feel safe. If I was in Russia at the same situation, living gay club with friends, there are some gay clubs in Russia, but they are not safe. And you can be beaten and even killed after leaving a nightclub. And some of my friends experienced such things. Not killing certainly, but beating. And I just realized that I feel totally safe. I don't afraid of people on the street who see us and they see that we are coming to the gay club, we are obviously gay people. Some of us were dressed like drag queens. And I feel safe because I know that those people are okay with me and I'm okay with them and we are like at home. It was a wonderful feeling. I am not afraid. It's hard to understand if you didn't experience that.
And you came straight to New York, you came straight to Brooklyn?
When we came to US, we really came to New York and straight to Brooklyn. We lived in Bushwick area. And we lived in Bushwick for like a week or like that, I suppose. And then we traveled to Florida because for that time we thought that maybe we will settle down at Florida or nearby. But we realized that we love New York better. Certainly it's more tolerant and it's more northern. You know, we are northern people. We are not supposed to live when it's 40 degrees, Celsius, not Fahrenheit. Yes, it's hard to live when it's really, really hot every day during the year. So we came back to New York and we like it here.
Did you seek any immigration help when you got here, any services when you got here to try to gain asylum or any other type of
When
services?
we came here, we certainly began to seek for immigration help. And at that moment, Rus LGBT group helped us a lot. Losha Gorshkov, the co-president, he gave some good advice, some very useful information, and finally we managed to find the immigration advocate who helps us at no non-profit basis. So no fee basis, I think. Yeah.
And what are some specific difficulties you face as an LGBTQ asylum seeker in the U.S.?
I think that LGBTQ asylum seekers in the US, they face two kinds of difficulties as asylum seekers and as LGBTQ people, because as usual, American people think that we are refugees. You know, all those signs like refugees are welcome here, we have to give you our support, we shouldn't quit social programs. There are no social programs for asylum seekers. No social programs, no social help, no material help, no help with accommodation, nothing, because the asylum seeker group is considered not like as the immigration group. We are like people who have a right to live here, but nobody knows if we live here forever or if we leave. So we have no right for like food stamps, accommodation, material help, even grants for studying at the college. And also, according to the special rules of seeking for asylum, of applying for asylum, there is a certain time that every asylum seeker has to spend as the undocumented person, and nobody can avoid it. What does that mean? You have to work for cash. You don't have a possibility to rent a flat, how to say, officially. You don't have a lease. You have to pay a lot, sometimes 2 or 3 monthly payments just to have a right to enter the house. And you can be kicked anytime. You have to live mostly in the areas of your diaspora, because there is no LGBTQ diaspora in US or in New York City, but there are Russian neighborhood, I don't know, Caribbean neighborhood, Dominican neighborhood. When you are LGBTQ people, you can face with a huge level of discrimination inside those areas because they are closed. And people who live there, they are often homophobic, yes. And you have no defense against them because you are undocumented. You have no rights, and you are afraid of going to the police because you can be kicked out before you apply for your asylum. So there are a lot of difficulties, and nobody talks about that, and nobody knows about that before coming here. We didn't know about that. We thought, yes, it would be very hard to apply for asylum, to wait, and you're afraid, you don't know if you're good or if you are kicked out from the country. But nobody told us that we will work for cash on jobs we maybe wouldn't take. A normal situation, that we can't rent a flat we want. I may say that for now we rented a flat. We live here from 2016, almost 3 years. It's our first official lease, not because we don't have money, but because we didn't have a right to rent. Because New York City has its laws. For example, it requires credit score. How can you have a credit score when you are a newcomer and nobody cares about that? How can you have solid work when you are a newcomer? No way. How can you go through the background check? That's really hard thing to understand, but that's a big problem because most of our people live in dangerous conditions, or sometimes just in bad conditions without renovation and so on, sometimes in dangerous conditions because when they face, for example, with homophobic neighbors or with aggression, they can do nothing. The problems begin when you come here, and first days, like weeks, they are full of joy, and you feel lucky and you feel great. But then you face with some reality, and you understand that you have to help yourself to survive, and you understand that you can't work officially, you can't rent officially. In New York City, you can get the medical insurance. It's a great help, but that's all. And also, it's hard to move through the country. I mean, until you apply for the asylum, you can't apply for the local ID. So you can fly, and for some months you can be undocumented. It's really frustrating. That's hard. And certainly when you go for a better life and working really hard, and sometimes you are not paid because you work for cash. You can prove nothing, and you live in the conditions you never faced in your motherland. That's hard. And here where the immigration depression begins. Because psychological problems are really actual for the asylum seekers too, and maybe even more for the other refugee groups. Because there is a moment we come here without any guarantees that we get our asylum, and we cannot get it. It's like a chance. It's not something solid you are sure in. So it's really stressful, and you live with the stress, especially when the new administration made a trick, and previously people came and they applied and they waited each for 2-3 years, and there was a line. And you knew that you have a place in the line and you are waiting and your friends are coming and you are after them and so on. And for now, there is no line. The newcomers, they are asked to go to the interview after 21 days. That's great for them. One moment that they have to wait like a few months before it, but that's great for them anyway. And we are just waiting. I mean, no guarantees and no line, and we have no information. And from my friends and other Russian-speaking asylum seekers I know, people who applied in 2015, no one from them was called for the interview. And we applied in 2016. You can imagine. And for now it's 2019, so we just don't know what to expect, and it's really stressful, and some people just become crazy about that. And especially because people come here with some mental problems, with depression because of homophobic surroundings, and here they face with this thing.
So you mentioned that you have to work for cash here.
I mean, everybody has to work for cash,
sure.
Even for one time.
So because of those laws, how did your life change? Like, what were you doing? What was your jobs or career in Russia compared to here?
In Russia, I worked from home. It was mostly because I had some medical conditions that didn't let me to work at the office or to work with people. But also I liked it. I have a very small business project, handmade items. I liked that. I had a blog, so on. So I was like a freelancer, a solo interpreter. Here in US, I did different things. I catered. I filmed as a background actor. I wrote articles. Also, I do some graphic design as a permanent job. Some handmade maybe, but not so permanent because I don't have any resources for this for now, but I hope that maybe someday. I can say that I never had the aim to grow up as a part of the office. I'm not a corporative person, but I know people who worked at the office in Russia and they wanted to go on here. And mostly, yes, they began as cleaners and so on. That's not bad. I'm sure that that's not bad. And that's great that people have a right to work, but that's bad that they have to work for cash and they have no safety at their workplace.
So aside from all of that, what do you do for fun or for pleasure when you have the chance to?
I walk and I spend time with my friends, watch films, like that, common things.
And I know you don't cook, but you said you like
Yes,
to have access to Russian food.
Sometimes, yeah, because some food that is made is typical for Russia. It's not typical for US. It's normal. So we sometimes visit Brighton Beach shops and we buy some food. For example, there is a kind of tea with thyme, black tea with thyme, and it's made in Russia only. It's Russian trademark, and we liked it. So.
Does it make you feel like you're back at home?
Maybe it's like a cozy feeling, you know.
And do you ever miss anything about Russia?
I miss my country house. I think a country house of my mother. It was nice and nice nature around and not many people nearby. So I like to spend time there. And I miss St. Petersburg, I mean its architecture. St. Petersburg is very, very beautiful. But I don't miss it like my motherland. I don't long to come back there and to live there.
So you spoke about what you'd like people to know about asylum in the U.S. You spoke about what you want people to know about LGBT immigrants.
Yeah.
What would you like people to know about you?
I'm not sure that I want people to know something about me. I mean, I'm just a person like others, and so it's a hard question for me.
It's a good answer, actually. It's a common answer. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Maybe yes. I want to add that all those difficulties we faced with, and they are really bad. It would be great somebody do something with them. I suppose that being here in US, it's a chance. As one of my friends told one day, we have a chance for the second life here. It's a unique chance. Most of people do not have it, and it doesn't matter if they live in US or in Russia. They just do not have this chance to change their lives totally, to begin from the blank space, and I think that's great.